Well, hello there, and thank you for joining me for another broadcast of God's podcast. I'm your host, God is Gracious. My subject today, speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. This comes from Proverbs 31, 8 through 9, which reads, Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and needy. Proverbs 31, 8 through 9. Proverbs 31, 1 through 9 addresses an earthly king, Lemuel, in the voice of his father because of all our sin natures. Power and wealth tends to be corrupting influences. Earlier verses address the tendency of kings to overindulge in sex through the collecting of harems and thus being destroyed. This was certainly a problem among the Israelite kings in 1 Kings 11, 1 through 6. The verses also address the problem of drinking too much, the problem being that drunkenness will cause the king to forget to provide justice to the poor and oppressed. He reserves a strong drink for those who are painfully on their deathbed. Verses 8 and 9 shows that God intends for people in power to be a voice for the voiceless. This is not easy. This is no easy task because intention does not equal wisdom, unfortunately. It takes having the heart of God and the Spirit of God to know how to defend the rights of the poor and needy. There are those who claim to defend the poor and play on emotionalism to get money from those with guilty consciences. Problems are invented to justify social programs, while often the true issue go unanswered and ignored because they require true wisdom and true sacrifice. So let's take a quick look at the four key parts of Proverbs 31, 8 through 9, beginning with number 1, speak up. In this day and age of polarized politics, it is very difficult for anyone to speak up. But as Christians, God entrusts us, whether or not we are kings, to say what need to be said. The church is especially accountable to God for speaking to power when there is oppression and injustice. Today, people in power and the church itself are confused. Few speak up for actual injustice, while many speak up for the made-up causes of the politically correct and social justice warriors. But God calls us to have courage, stand up, and speak up. Again, that was number 1, speak up. Number 2, for those who cannot speak for themselves, especially those who have the power to make a change. God has great expectations. What is power for? Providing justice. There are many reasons why someone is unable to speak for themselves. We must take up their cause while seeking to empower them to have their own voice. So again, number 1, speak up. Number 2, for those who cannot speak for themselves. Number 3, for the rights of all who are destitute. While it should not be ignored that some, especially today, are destitute because of their own choice, okay? But they still have rights. They are still image bearers of God and have intrinsic value to Him. If their rights are being violated, they would not have the ability to defend themselves and should be defended by the able. And we should see Christ in them, in the poor brother or sister. We should see Christ in all, but especially a brother or sister, the problem is, so many of us who profess to be followers are actually not really following. Anyway, again, number one, speak up. Number two, for those who cannot speak for themselves. Number three, for the rights of those who are destitute. And lastly, number four, speak up and judge fairly. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and the needy. This is largely a restatement. The king is put in place to be the king of all his subjects. His policies should spring from righteousness itself. We are called to defend the poor and the destitute, not because we feel sorry for them or because some fundraiser made us weak, but because we are called to be righteous. When we walk with God and have turned our lives over to Him, He will move us to accomplish His purposes. He will give us the wisdom to help the poor in a way that do not harm them and keep them poor, which is often what happens in society. That means, they might mean well, and in some cases they do not, but in some cases they mean well, but they throw money at problems without wisdom and without the big picture in mind. Glory to God. Please, I did not intend to get worked up, but this do get me highly motivated, I would say. But thank you again so much for joining me on another brief broadcast of God's podcast. As you know, I'm your host, God is Gracious, and until next time, you, your family members, and friends be blessed. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And these recordings will get longer, as a matter of fact. Probably beginning next year. We'll see what happens. They may even have a picture, a video with them. I may even be showing video. I'm not sure yet where it's going to go beginning next year, but it will continue no matter what. And whoever you are that listen, I appreciate you very, very much. God's blessings to you and your family. May you prosper in everything that you lay your hand to do, or that you set your mind on, you, your children, and your children's children. In Jesus' mighty name. All right, bye-bye now. Have a great day.